Hello dear students. So in the last class we had discussed the polarization in dielectrics. Okay. So continuing the same topic today, I would like to discuss that the net effect of the dielectric on the electric field E is to increase D inside it by the amount P. Okay, so in other words we can say that the application of E to the dielectric medium causes the flux density to be greater than it would be in the free space. Okay, so what I am trying to say is D equals to epsilon 0 E and plus P. Okay, so let's say this is equation 1. Okay, so this D is your electric flux density. Okay, E is electric field intensity and P is the polarization. Okay, so the net effect of dielectric, okay, on the electric field E is to increase the D inside it by this amount P. Okay, so this relation closely resembles the condition, okay, for some dielectrics. For some dielectrics, the P is proportional to the applied electric field E. Okay, so P is proportional to the applied electric field E. Okay, and hence we can write this P equals to chi E epsilon 0 E. Okay, put it equation 2. Okay, so P is proportional to this applied electric field E, so we can write P equals to chi E epsilon 0 E, where this chi E is known as the electric susceptibility. Okay, it's electric susceptibility of the material. Okay, of the material. So what is this electric susceptibility? So it is the measure of how sensitive a given dielectric is to the electric field. Okay, so it is the measure of how sensitive a given dielectric is to the electric field, and that measurement is your electric susceptibility. Okay, so using equation 1 and equation 2, now D equals to what we can write? This D equals to epsilon 0 E and plus the value of P from second equation, that is chi E epsilon 0 E. So here it is chi E epsilon 0 E. Okay, and if we take this epsilon 0 common, so it will be 1 plus this chi E into E. Okay, and hence we can say that this D equals to epsilon 0, epsilon R and E. Okay, where this epsilon R is this 1 plus chi E. Okay, now this epsilon 0 into epsilon R, that is absolute permittivity into relative permittivity, can be written as the permittivity of the dielectric medium. Okay, so we can write this D equals to epsilon of E. Okay, so this is a relation D equals to epsilon E, and where your epsilon is epsilon 0 epsilon R. Okay, so the permittivity of the medium denoted by epsilon is equals to the product of absolute permittivity, that is permittivity in the free space, into the relative permittivity. Okay, So epsilon equal to epsilon 0 epsilon r, and epsilon r is what? This epsilon r is, see, 1 plus chi e we have considered epsilon r. So epsilon r equals to 1 plus this chi e, and it's equal to epsilon upon epsilon 0. Okay, where this epsilon is the permittivity of the dielectric medium, epsilon 0 is the permittivity of free space, and epsilon r is the relative permittivity. Okay, now since epsilon r is equals to this epsilon upon epsilon 0, so the dielectric constant, okay, or relative permittivity, this epsilon r is also called the dielectric constant. So it is the ratio of the permittivity of the dielectric to the permittivity of free space. Okay, so this dielectric constant can be defined as the ratio of permittivity of the dielectric medium to the permittivity of the free space. Okay, so what is the dielectric strength? This dielectric strength, the dielectric strength is the maximum electric field that a dielectric can tolerate, that a dielectric can tolerate or withstand without electrical breakdown. Without electrical breakdown. So the dielectric strength denoted by this epsilon r is the ratio of epsilon upon epsilon 0, and what is the meaning of this? The dielectric strength is the maximum electric field that a dielectric can tolerate or withstand without electrical breakdown. Okay, so it has got a very important significance in the insulators. Okay, so you might have seen the insulators in the transmission line, and there that this dielectric strength is it matters while selecting the insulation, because it has to tolerate the electrical stress, okay, produced by the potential voltage. So higher will be the voltage, larger will be the electrical stress, and the strength of the dielectric will define whether it can tolerate this stress or not. Okay, so the strength is what? That it is the maximum electric field that a dielectric can tolerate or withstand without electrical breakdown. Means up to this limit it will tolerate, and beyond this limit, even if the electrical stress is given, then it will break down. Okay, so it will not behave like a dielectric or insulator, it will behave like a conductor, you can say. Okay, so now the next topic is the boundary condition. Okay, the boundary condition. Okay, so what is boundary condition? So if the field exists in a region consisting of two different media, the conditions that the field must satisfy at the interface separating the media are called boundary conditions. Okay, so let's say there are two regions. Okay, let's say there are two regions, one is another region, region 1, and another region 2, and this is the boundary of the two regions. Okay, let's say first region is a conductor, second is a dielectric, or first is also a conductor, second is also a conductor, first is also dielectric, second is also dielectric. Like this we have the different mediums and there is a boundary separating the two mediums. Okay, then if the field exists in a region consisting of two different media, the conditions that the interface, the field must satisfy at the interface. So this is the interface. So what are the conditions we need to derive, and those conditions are called the boundary conditions. Okay, so we will see one by one. So these conditions, why do we determine these conditions? Because these conditions are helpful in determining the field on one side of the boundary if the field on the other side is known. Okay, so it will definitely help you, means we need not to analyze the fields at both the sides. If the electric field at one side of the boundary is known to you, then you can easily determine the counterpart at the second side also. So this is the purpose of determining this boundary condition. Okay, so which boundary conditions we have to discuss? So first one is the dielectric, let's say the relative permittivity epsilon R1 for the region 1, and second one also dielectric. Okay, and its relative permittivity epsilon R2. So between the two dielectrics we can determine the boundary condition. Okay, that is the first region is of different dielectric and second region of different dielectric. Okay, and at the boundary we have to determine the boundary conditions. Okay, what is the second condition? Second is conductor and dielectric. Conductor and dielectric. Okay, so in one region there is a conductor, another region is dielectric. So in that condition we have to determine. And third one is conductor and free space. Conductor and free space. Okay, so let us imagine you have one dielectric and another dielectric. So what are the conditions? Okay, so in the cables or other insulating devices, insulating materials, you might have, you can see this different dielectrics. Okay, so in the cable we have different level of insulations. Okay, at the metal we have different level of insulation, at the outer part we have different level of insulation, and at the core we have different level of insulation. So there this type of conditions can be imagined, this dielectric, because there must be a boundary separating the two dielectrics, and the two dielectrics are of different relative permittivity. Okay, another is conductor and dielectric. Obviously if you consider a case of any wire, so inside the wire there is a conductor and outside the wire there is an insulator. So that interface, that boundary is your conductor dielectric, and conductor in free space. Okay, so the transmission lines, the overhead transmission lines, okay, so the overhead transmission lines can be considered the case of this conductor in free space, because there is no insulation on the lines. Okay, they are bare conductors, so there is no insulation on the lines, so they are conductor and they are actually in the free space, there is no insulator on it. So conductor and free space boundary condition can be imagined in such cases. Okay, so we need to analyze these three boundary conditions one by one. Fine, but before that, following equations can be considered to determine the boundary conditions. Okay, so we need to discuss the equations which can be considered. Okay, so the equations are, first of all, this E dot dl equals to 0. Okay, this one is your first equation, and remember the Gauss law. So D dot ds equals to your Q enclosed. Okay, so charge enclosed, the surface integral of electric flux density will give you the charge enclosed. Okay, so what is QNC? QNC is the charge enclosed, is the charge enclosed by surface S. Okay, charge enclosed by this surface S. Okay, so now let's another thing is also there. Electric field intensity E can be decomposed into two orthogonal components, that is ET and EN. Okay, so this electric field intensity can be decomposed. So this electric field intensity E equals to ET plus En. Okay, so what is T? T is the tangential component of E and En is the normal component. So this E, electric field intensity E, can be decomposed into two orthogonal components. Okay, so let's say if ET is the tangential, then En is the normal, and they are orthogonal to each other, means 90° between them. Okay, so this E can be resolved in, and this is the resultant E. Okay, this is the resultant E, and this E can be resolved in two orthogonal components, ET and En. ET is the tangential component and En is the normal component. Okay, so similarly this electric flux density can also be decomposed. This D equals to dt and plus dn. So it's not the actually sum, it's the algebraic sum, you can it's the vector sum, dt plus dn. Okay, now let's proceed to find the dielectric boundary condition. Okay, so what is this dielectric boundary condition? So we will consider the electric field E existing in a region that consists of two different dielectrics. Okay, so two different dielectric conditions we have to consider. Fine. So let us consider this is a boundary. Okay, this one is the region 1 and this one is your region 2. Okay, since it is this condition is what? This condition is dielectric boundary condition. So in the both the regions we have the dielectric, but of different dielectric strength. Okay, so this one region is of, let's say, the permittivity of this medium is epsilon 1 and second is the permittivity is epsilon 2. Okay, so now I have told you that this electric field intensity in both the regions can be resolved into two components. Okay, so two components, let's say this, for this one is the tangential component, so we will write E1t, and this is the normal component, so we will write E1n. Okay, and this one is the, so instead of putting it here, I will put it like this. Okay, so this one is a E1n. Okay, and this is the resultant of these two, and this is your E1. Okay, similarly for the second region also, for the second dielectric medium, in the second region we will draw the tangential component, so it is T2T. Okay, and this one is your E2n. Okay, and the resultant of these two, this resultant is E2. Okay, electric field 2. Now we will assume a closed path considering half of the first region and half of the second region. Okay, so we are considering a closed path, and let's say this is the closed path. So half is in the upper region and half is in the lower region. Okay, so this closed path is, let's say, A to B, B to C, then C to D, and this D to A. Okay, and the width is del W. Del W is the length, and this width is del H. Del H. Okay, this height is del H. Okay, so it is a rectangular region. Okay, and this path has been drawn considering that half of the rectangle is in the upper region and half, the lower half, is in the second region. Okay, so now these two fields can be decomposed as in the diagram. This E1 has been decomposed into E1T plus E1N. Okay, so this E1 has been decomposed into this E1T plus E1N. Okay, similarly the second electric field has been decomposed, and this one is your E2T and plus this E2N. Okay, now if we apply our equation 1 to the closed path ABCDA, okay, ABCDA. Okay, so what was your first equation? Let me write here. The equation 1 was this E dot dl equals to 0. Okay, so this was your first equation. Just now I had written. So applying this equation 1 in the closed path ABCDA. Okay, ABCDA. If we apply this equation 1, okay, assuming that the path is very small with respect to this variation in E. Okay, so assuming that this path is very small with respect to this variation in E, if we apply this equation 1 in this closed path ABCDA, then what we will write? Okay, so since the RHS is 0, so let's say we are writing it 0. Okay, now from A to B, so from A to B, this, see the direction from A to B. If we proceed, so we are along this E1T. Okay, so E dot dl we have to write, means electric field intensity, and dot the along the path, that is length of the path. So if we go from A to B, okay, then what will happen? This E1T, we will write E1T and dot dl. Dot dl means what is the length of this AB path? Del W. So E1T dot del W. Is it okay? Now when we go from B to C, so half portion of this BC is in the upper path. Okay, so this BC, half portion of this BC in the upper part, so it is along which component? It is along E1N, but we are going from B to C, we are going down, and the direction of E1N is up, so they are opposite in direction. So we will write here minus E1N. Okay, and dot, what is the length of this upper part? BC, half of BC is what? Del H by 2. So we will write del H upon 2. Okay, now the lower half of BC lies in the second region. So now see which component is parallel to this, or this half portion of BC is lying along which component? It is lying along E2N, but the direction is what? Opposite. So we will write minus E2N and dot del H upon 2. Okay, We will write this. Now again we will go from C to D. So this CD portion is in the second region and this CD is lying along E to T, but the direction is opposite. We are proceeding from C to D and the direction of E to T is this side. So we will write minus E to T and dot what? Del W, because this path is, the length is del W. Okay, and again let me erase it out. So if we go from this D to A, again we have the same situation like BC. The lower half of this D to A is lying in the second region and upper half in the first region. So for the lower half if we write, so this lower half is along which direction? E to N. So we will write, and this direction is supporting, both are in the same direction, lying upward, okay, pointing upward. So here E to N and dot del H upon 2. So it will be what? Plus E to N dot del H by 2, and the upper half of this dA, upper half is lying in the first region, so it is along E1N. So we will write E1N dot del H upon 2. Okay, so in this way we can write this equation. Fine. Now if we see this E2 and del H by 2, this is going to be cancelled, and this E1 del H by 2, this term is also cancelled. So which term is left now? So here it is 0 and E1t del W minus E2t del W. So if we take this del W outside, so it will be E1t minus E2t, okay, and this del W, okay, and as the del H is very less, as I have told you that this region is very elemental region, very lesser in size, so this del H can be considered tending 0. Obviously if we have to consider the things at the boundary, so at the boundary this height will be very much lesser. Okay, so this del H is tending 0, so this equation will be what? E1t minus E2t equals to 0. So this E1t equals to E2t. Okay, and this is the first boundary condition, that E1t equal to E2t, and let's say this is a question 4. So at the boundary the condition of electric field has been derived, that at the boundary between the two, separating the two dielectric mediums of different dielectric strengths, the electric field, the tangential component of electric field are same on the two sides of the boundary. Okay, so this tangential component of the two sides, the two mediums at the boundary are equal. So this we have derived. This is the boundary condition, and we will derive some more boundary conditions, but this is one of the boundary conditions what we need to determine. Now how it is helpful in calculating? Now if this relation is established, certainly it will help us. If the electric field, the tangential component will be known to us for one medium, then certainly we know this condition, so through this condition we can conclude that it will be equal for the second medium also. Okay, so in this way we can see. Now similarly we will consider a surface between the two dielectric. Okay, again here is the dielectric 1 and in second region dielectric 2, and now we will consider for the electric flux density. Okay, so let's say this similarly as we did in the electric field intensity. So it is a tangential component, this is your normal component d1n, and this is the resultant d1. Here also this is the tangential component for the second medium, so d2t. Okay, this one is your d2n, and this one is the resultant, that is d2. Okay, now in this case we will consider in the previous case we had considered the closed path, rectangular path. Now we will consider a closed cylindrical surface. Okay, like this, fine, and whose area is del s. The area is del s, and let the height is del h. Okay, okay. Now this d can be resolved into what? This d equals to how? What? Epsilon e, and we can write it. This d can also be written into dissolved into two orthogonal components, that is dt and dn. T is the tangential component and n is the normal component. Okay, so the equation 4 which we had derived, so this equation 4 can be written as, so what was your equation 4? E1t equal to E2t. So that can be written as, since E1t equals to E2t, so we can write E1t equal to how much? E can be written as d upon epsilon. So here also we can write d1t upon this epsilon 1 equals to this d2t upon epsilon 2. Okay, so this is the another boundary condition. This is the another boundary condition in terms of what? Electric flux density. So this dt undergoes some change across the interface. This E1t was equal to E2t. That means at the boundary between separating the two dielectric medium, this tangential component of electric field intensity will be equal. But in case of electric flux density, it is not equal. It will depend upon the dielectric strength of the medium. So we can say that E1, the tangential component of means ET is continuous because they are equal. ET is continuous at the boundary. But DT is not continuous at the boundary. Not continuous at the boundary. Why not continuous? Because it is not absolutely equal. So the tangential component of electric field intensity is continuous at the boundary because they are equal, but this d1t is not equal to d2t. Rather, it depends on epsilon 1 and epsilon 2. So dt is not continuous, or you can say discontinuous at the boundary. Okay, because it is having the change across the boundary. Okay. Now we apply equation 2. So equation 2 was your what? If we see in the beginning, I had written this equation 2. Your equation 2 was this d dot ds equals to charge enclosed. Okay, this was your equation 2. This was surface integral. This was your second equation. So now applying this equation 2 to this cylindrical surface which we have assumed across the boundary. So upper half of this surface is lying in the first region and lower half in the second region. Okay, so now applying equation 2 to the cylindrical Gaussian surface. So this is the Gaussian surface we have assumed here, and the contribution due to the sides vanishes. Okay, so this side is your circular, so the contribution is null. Okay, now we will consider the contributions along this top and bottom. Okay, so let's say the charge enclosed by this Gaussian surface is del q. Okay, so this del q, that is the q enclosed. Okay, so del q equals to d dot ds. Now this is the integration, d dot ds. So d and dot the surface, okay, along this. So this is, let's say del q can also be written as del s, rho s del s, surface charge density multiplied by this surface, and it can be written as see, if we talk about this top surface, so top surface, the vector d will lie along d1n. Okay, so d1n, and the surface is dot ds, so dot del s. Okay, and if we talk about this surface, so this surface is, so the d will lie along which direction, this direction, and this is along d2n, but the direction is opposite, so we will write minus d2n and dot del s. Okay, now if we take this common, rho s del s equals to, del s can be taken common, and this one is d1n minus d2n. So this del s will be cancelled out. This del s is cancelled out. So finally we have this d1n minus d2n equals to rho s. Okay, so this is another boundary condition, d1n minus d2n equals to rho s. So this is your, let's say, equation 5th. Okay, and where rho s is what, rho s is the free charge density placed at the boundary. Okay, so rho s is your free charge density at the boundary. Okay, now some special conditions also exist. Okay, some special conditions exist, that if no free charge exists at the interface, if there is no free charge at the interface, then what will happen, this rho s will be 0, because if there is no charge, there will not be any density, so this rho s will be 0. And if this rho s is 0, then what will happen, this d1n equal to d2n. Okay, if this rho s is 0, then d1n equal to d2n. Okay, so if no free charges exist at the interface or the boundary, if there is no charge at the boundary or interface, then this rho s will be what, 0. And if this rho s will be 0, then what will happen, we have seen this equation, d1n minus d2n equals to this rho s. Okay, now this rho s is 0, so what will happen, d1n equal to d2n. Okay, so this will be equal, this will be equal, and let us consider this as equation 6. Okay, now from this is the normal component, tangential components, the boundary condition for tangential components d1t and e1t we have already derived. This is the normal component d1n and d2n, so both are equal. Okay, so this is, we can say the normal components is continuous at the boundary, it is continuous. Okay, at the boundary. Now since this d is equals to what, epsilon e, so we can derive the condition for normal component of this e also. So d1 can be written as epsilon e, so d1n can be written as epsilon 1 e1n, and d2n can be written as epsilon 2 e2n. Okay, so now e1n is not absolutely equal to e2n, it is depending upon epsilon 1 and epsilon 2, so obviously this is what, this is discontinuous at the boundary. So this one is your, this is discontinuous at the boundary. Why are saying discontinuous? Because this is not absolutely equal as this normal component of electric flux density is existing. So if it is absolutely equal, it is continuous. It is depending on epsilon m and epsilon 2, then it is discontinuous. So the normal component of electric field intensity at the boundary between the separating the two dielectric mediums is discontinuous at the boundary. Okay. So all the equations which we have derived, okay, are called as the collectively called as the boundary conditions. Okay.